So, Don, I understand today we're going to talk about Poles, or what John McCain might call Czechoslovakians, if you follow that.
I see your Eastern European accent there.
Yes,
coming through. Yes.
John McCain thinks that Czechoslovakia, which hasn't existed for 15 years, figures into this current dynamic of global geopolitics.
And so does Iraq, which has been really...
Well, that does exist.
That does exist.
Even barely.
And that definitely has become the big battle on the national security front between McCain and Obama. And the polls show some really interesting things about the fact that Americans are really split on several major issues on that. Number one,
the polls seem to be split.
Well, that's true too, but they're split over whether or not we should withdraw under a timetable. 16 months, Obama says, when he gets in, they're going to be out. And 50% say they're for that, and 50% say they're opposed to that timetable. But Obama's really getting raked over the coals, some by his own Democrats, by saying he's going to go to Iraq and he's going to talk to the commanders on the ground. He's going to talk to Maliki and the Iraqis about this. But he seems to already have made up his mind. Why is he going there? And that's a big question mark. And he did an article in the New York Times op-ed page, opposite the editorial page, in which he said the surge has been working, even though he said the surge would not work, predicted it would not work, and voted against the surge.
Ron,
so he's got a lot of problems on this.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You seem to be suggesting that he's been inconsistent on this issue. Do I have that right?
Inconsistent and wrong.
And wrong.
Yeah, let's add that to the mix.
Now, there's a poll that I saw conducted by ABC News, Washington Post, and it showed that respondents, even Democrats, say that this is over 1,000 respondents, say that John McCain would be a good commander-in-chief of the military. 72%, whereas only 48% say that Barack Obama would be a good commander-in-chief. Now, the election, don't you think, could turn on this issue? I mean, who do you feel safer with going into the next 4 years?
Right. They asked the question in various different ways, as you know, and I think they would say about who do they trust was the way one question was put. They asked these various different ways to be commander-in-chief.
Until they get the answer they want.
Well, no, they've just asked in different ways, and 48% they would trust Obama to be commander-in-chief. 48% would trust McCain. So they split right down the middle on the timetable on withdrawal, which is really interesting because, Iraq loomed as the big issue, and now that's been replaced by the number one issue overwhelmingly, which is the economy. But here's what a prominent Democrat said about Obama's position on this. And this is Michael O'Hanlon. He's one of the top national security advisors at the Brookings Institution. He was an advisor to Hillary Clinton and an advisor to a number of other Democratic presidential candidates. And he said he could not believe that Obama would put such a definitive timeline into print, which he did in the New York Times article he wrote, before a trip to Iraq, where he's going to consult with Iraqi leaders and U.S. commanders. He's already made up his mind. Well, why is he going there? Let me just read what O'Hanlon said. This is a Democratic advisor on national security. To say that you're going to get out at a certain schedule, regardless of what the Iraqis do, regardless of what our enemies do, regardless of what is happening on the ground, is the height of absurdity. Now, that's what a Democrat is saying about his position, and that reflects maybe why the American people are very conflicted on this.
Well, but the polls seem to indicate that what we have here is a real horse race, neck and neck, and any other cliche that appropriately applies. So I'm not sure that all of this seems to matter that much. I mean, Barack Obama has been all over television carefully explaining that he does not mean that regardless of the situation on the ground, he will withdraw American troops by a date certain, and he will do it in a certain way, a predetermined way. So he has said a number of things. Well, all this tells me that this is the way presidential candidates of both parties normally behave. They have several very clear and distinct positions on the same issue. And it depends on the time of day and who the audience is, and apparently what the New York Times,
what this tells
editorial
me,
pages complaining about that day.
Well, what this tells me is that months and months and months of the Democrats whacking John McCain on Iraq and on the war have not dented his credibility as someone who has a lot of trust by the American people on being a commander-in-chief and doing better, these polls say, on how to win the war in Iraq, which we're winning, and which Obama quite can't bring himself to admit.
Well, Obama, it seems to me, I've seen him say, yeah, the surge is working, I acknowledge that. Again, it depends on the day. So Obama is playing it all ways, but then that's not unusual for a politician of either party. It's not clear to me what is going to be the determinative issue in this election. I mean, what is it going to be? Gasoline prices? Is it going to be Iraq?
Well, it's going to be the economy. There's no doubt about that. We're talking about this because it's the issue this week, but it is going to be the economy.
Is it the stupid economy or the economy stupid?
We don't know what's going to. But what happens if something happens on the national security front? Then that looms as a big issue, and that's McCain's strong suit on this.
Or a huge bank failure that sets off a panic.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen, and I don't think it will.
I'm going to hope that doesn't happen, too. I'm with you on that.
I'll hold you to it.
All right.